In this video, we're going to check out some Imperial Robots. Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader.
Likes!
Robots. The Legio Cybernetica. The Adeptus Mechanicus is divided into many sub-branches and divisions. Each specialises in one of the myriad areas of the technical arcana. The Legio Cybernetica is one of the oldest parts of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Its records stretch back almost unbroken to the very first days of the Imperium, and it's assumed to the times before the Imperium. The Legio has a long history, and its members regard themselves as an elite. The Legio is responsible for the care and construction of all robots throughout the Imperium. Robots may be used by all kinds of army and marine forces, but they are always under the Legio's final control. Indeed, many of the adepts of the Legio have been killed while taking part in military operations. The Legio continues to serve, aware of its value as a fighting force, even in the face of 90% or more casualties. The Legio is organised into several thousand cohorts, although only a percentage of these is ever active at any one time. Each cohort is in turn organised into maniples of 3, 4 or 5 robots, plus a Legion tech adept. The number of maniples in a cohort varies, but is rarely more than 100. However, a cohort is usually spread across an entire marine force of several chapters or a single army. Battles involving more than 4 or 5 maniples are rare. This is not to say that they have never occurred. During the Horus Heresy in particular, large numbers of robots were committed by both sides in an effort to minimise human casualties until a decisive final battle could be fought. Each maniple is virtually a self-contained unit. The typically 4 units are managed on the battlefield by a single tech adept. He has little more to do than give the robots their final programs and then monitor their progress. He is, however, also charged with making sure that a damaged robot, which could be dangerous to its own side, is destroyed as quickly as possible. Each robot carries a self-destruct system, which can be detonated by remote control should its programming fail in some way. So in my opinion, ED-209 or ED-209 really did need his own self-destruct mechanism that would have saved a few pounds worth of compensation, I think. Although rarely present on the battlefield if they can help it, there are also a number of other lesser tech adepts who perform all maintenance and repair functions for the maniple. Their services are also highly sought after for other purposes. It is said that a tech adept of the Legio is worth his weight in spares and can repair virtually any item of Imperial equipment. Now it sounds to me like this chap would be well used being sent over to the golden trophy, to the golden throne to try and fix that. Isn't that on the way out? Can it even be repaired? Legio cohorts are occasionally attached to campaigning Space Marine chapters, such as during Operation Carthage, the second pacification of Istvan V. When the Desert Lions chapter took the planet's defense fortresses, they were preceded by a complete Legio cohort of robots. The robots had been programmed to advance in an apparently mindless fashion and prove easy targets for the defenders. However, the Desert Lions used the opportunity to map out the defenders' fire plans and blind spots. In the Lions' ensuing assault, only 7 Marines were lost. All the surviving robots were inducted into the chapter as honorary members as a mark of respect. The Inquisition has also put cohorts of the Legio to good use. Robots are, by their very natures, utterly incorruptible. Their pre-programmed, non-biological natures makes them the perfect troops to use against mutants and other contaminated populations. The terror value of robots when used against unprepared and underarmed troops has not gone unnoticed by the Inquisition. This, combined with their unflagging loyalty, has made them valued additions to the Inquisition's armoury. Cohorts attached to the Inquisition are usually staffed by technician inquisitors rather than Legio adepts. Robots may be pure and incorruptible, but men are not. This was proven during the Horus Heresy, when many Legio cohorts rebelled under the leadership of Warmaster Horus. The cohorts had been placed under the Warmaster's command in preparation for a new crusade. When Horus commanded his forces to move against the Emperor, the Legio cohorts at his disposal were amongst those to obey. In the subsequent fighting, many more of the Adeptus Mechanicus joined Horus and his rebels, but this did not alter the fact that parts of the Legio had been the first to declare for the Warmaster. Following the defeat of the heresy and the banishment of the traitor legions, the dishonoured Legio cohorts also fled into the Eye of Terror, where they remain to this day. Now, have these actually been seen since? Have they even ever come out? I don't know. If you know, let us all know in the comments below. Since the defeat of Horus, the Legio Cybernetica has pledged itself anew to the Imperium. Its members now take binding oaths of loyalty more terrible than any Marine chapter oaths. Over the millennia, they have regained the respect and admiration of the rest of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Imperial Guard, and the Adeptus Astartes. Legio maniples require less transport space than standard military units. Robots can be carried in open space without harm. They also need less life support and food because robots neither eat or drink. They also have less battlefield support. Robots usually carry their own heavy weapons. Many robots use standard armaments, reducing the need for specialised supplies, and can interchange parts with dreadnoughts. All this makes them extremely popular with practical military commanders. Some of the older Cybernetica cohorts claim that their first robotic troops date, in part at least, back to the First Crusade of the Imperium and earlier. These claims may have some validity, as robots are often cannibalised to provide parts for their damaged brethren. Given the lifespans of Imperial technologies when maintained, such claims become reasonable. It is indeed possible that one robot's leg or power field or cortex has been in almost constant use for more than 10,000 years. Now, to me, when I hear this sounds to me a bit like Trigger's broom and all that malarkey from Only Fools and Horses, 10 internet cookies, if you get that reference. Like a dreadnought, a robot is the product of the many advanced technologies which have produced its armoured shell, its artificial muscle and nerve bundles, power plant, weapons control systems, equipment interfaces, and cortex. The Mechanicus weapon shops turn out many robots to the age-old designs held in the memory banks. Castellan and Crusader pattern robots, for example, are known to have fought on both sides during the Horus Heresy. The designs for these have remained virtually unchanged since that time, with perhaps only minor cosmetic variations. Many robot components are identical or thereabouts to dreadnought parts. This compatibility simplifies many supply and repair problems. Legio cohorts have, for example, been cannibalised out of existence to provide spares for dreadnought suits. In return, Legio Cybernetica adepts have not been averse to dismantling dreadnought suits, sometimes even killing the pilot in the process when making battlefield repairs. What makes a robot different from an unoccupied dreadnought suit is its cortex. This is an artificial brain of sorts, which is constructed from various artificial proteins and enzymes. This cortex is imprinted with simple maintenance and movement routines, a rudimentary mind. These enable the robot to obey simple instructions, such as open the weapon bay door or move ahead to the holding area, for example. These firmware routines, so called because they are wired-in software, are often patterned after living creatures, and a robot may develop a dog-like devotion to its technician master. Now, whilst checking out some Imperial robots of my own, I used this tape measure to measure the length of their legs. Now, interestingly, at the 20 centimeter point here, don't know if you can make that out, but it says if you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Robert. If you are enjoying the content here on the channel, then please consider joining the Patreon, the link to which is in the description below or up here somewhere. Before a battle, the firmware routines are overlaid and replaced by the robot's combat wetware, which is the system of software of a protein computer. This new Cortex program, which can be changed for every battle, defines, for example, how and when the robot is to fire its weapons or detonate its self-destruct charges. Each piece of wetware is held in a small slice of bioplastic, about the same size as a credit card. Many warriors take these from dead robots, believing that they hold the soul and courage of the robot. When kept in a medicine pouch, some of the robot's bravery passes into the warrior. Even some marine chapters have been known to follow this tradition. Without its cortex, a robot is as helpless as a bolter without a marine. It can do nothing other than take whatever punishment is given to it. With its cortex fully programmed, however, a robot can prove itself the equal of many other creatures on the battlefield. A robot is constructed in a similar fashion to a dreadnought, and its movement abilities depend upon the size of its power plant. When it comes to robot weapons, a robot has internal and external weapon mountings. Humanoid robots usually have at least one of their weapon mountings as a human-like hand. Hands give great flexibility, as the robot can be equipped with any standard issue basic or close combat weapon from the unit's armory. The number of weapons carried by a robot is limited by the number of hardpoints that have been provided during construction. There are a number of standard systems built into robots. Communicators are standard to all makes of robot, allowing it to exchange data with its commander and other friendly troops. So what sort of communication do you think these robots are using? Do you think they may be using WhatsApp on their mobile phones, or do you think they're using MSN from back in the day? I was a big fan of MSN back in 1920 or whenever it was we used to use it. When was it? Was it around the time of MySpace? What happened to MySpace? Anyway, let's move on. A robot can be slaved to another robot's program as long as it possesses a communicator. Communicators perform one other vital function. Providing a robot's communicator is working correctly, it will never select the same target as another robot. Constant data interchange prevents such a waste of firepower resources. They are also equipped with sensor packages. These give the robot the equivalent of auto-sensors. The robot then has a 180-degree field of view to its front, which is the same as its fire arc. It cannot be affected by blinding weapons, although the sensors and their inherent interpreter and discriminator systems remain the most vulnerable part of the robot. They can also be fitted with suspensors. These are sometimes fitted to the weapons carried by the robot, thus offsetting any movement issues. Some robots can be equipped with demolition charges. Should the robot seriously malfunction, its controller can use the demo charge as the ultimate sanction to stop the robot running amok. The tech adept in charge of the robot can arm the demolition charges of the robot at any time with communicator command. There are also some other optional systems that can be fitted to the robots. The cortex is the most important system carried, the artificial brain or computer in which the robot holds its program. The logical size and complexity of the robot's program has no effect on the physical size of the robot's cortex. Now, I think what they're saying here is that the size of the brain doesn't actually represent the intelligence level. I don't know if that's actually true with humans. Does a bigger brain mean a bigger intelligence? What do you think? They can also be equipped with power fields and robot power field synchronizers. The synchronizer allows the robot to fire its weapons whilst the power field is on. However, there is a slim chance that when the robot fires, a shot directed against it will penetrate the field. When the robot is in hand-to-hand combat, its power field is dropped automatically, then switched back on immediately when the robot leaves combat. They can also be equipped with organic camouflage. These systems give a robot a clone skin of human flesh, allowing it to pass for a human. Such a system is particularly useful for assassination or battlefield stay-behind bomb bots, which can appear human until the moment comes to detonate. Bombot racks provide cushioning and protection for explosives in an internal stowage bay. Robot programs. In many situations, a robot may be less effective than a living creature, even though its reflexes are just as fast, its aim is just as true, and it is often stronger, tougher, and harder to kill than a person. It is, however, limited by its program, which is literal-minded to an inhuman degree. Whatever the situation, a robot always follows its program, even when this is not the correct thing to do. Where a human can easily cope with an unexpected development, a robot may not have the flexibility to manage on a rapidly changing battlefield. A robot's actions are controlled by its program. Without a program, a robot is a heap of junk, not a fighting machine. The program defines how the robot behaves on the battlefield, the robot's intelligence if you wish. The bigger the program, the more chance the robot will carry out the best possible combinations of actions on the battle. Each robot has its own program, which consists of a number of instructions which the robot follows in order during its lifespan. Now, I do feel that my old employer would have liked some of these non-feeling robots, some automatons to complete their tasks. You know who I mean. I do feel sorry for these robots, you know. Should you feel pity for an automaton? Is that normal? Is it normal to feel pity for a robot? That's something I might have to think about. Sounds like a ethical episode in Star Trek The Next Generation. There probably was an episode, actually. A robot program includes all the actions that it can perform. Overall, the sum of these actions are the robot's general orders for a battle. For example, a defensive program has a different set of instructions in it to a bombot program. As a result, the robots given these programs behave in very different fashions, even if they are physically identical. Slave and master systems. A robot need not have a cortex and a program to operate. It can act as the slave of a master robot, receiving orders by a communicator. Only the master robot is fitted with a cortex and program if this is the case. The slaves are merely bodies fitted with standard communicators. Each slave robot follows the instructions in the master's program in turn. Effectively, each slave has its own program and cortex, as the actions of one slave have no effect on any others. If the master robot's program or cortex is damaged, all its slaves are affected equally. Communicator damage to a slave robot means that it can no longer receive or transmit data. Any number of slaves can be controlled by a single master robot, although the usual ratio is 1 master to 3 slaves. When a larger ratio is used, damage to a master's program can halt too many robots at a single stroke. Collisions. Robots occasionally run into things while moving. Although they're sophisticated machines, their single-minded pursuit of a goal often leads them to ignore more immediate dangers. All robots are fitted with an automatic collision avoidance system as part of their sensor package, but there is always a small chance that the collision avoidance sensors will malfunction and cause a collision. Hand-to-hand combat. Robots have a set of inherent programs built in to their artificial nervous systems. These programs allow the robot to defend itself in hand-to-hand combat, even if the robot's program doesn't have elements which specifically relate to melee combat. A robot without the proper programming for hand-to-hand combat may not initiate hand-to-hand combat, but sometimes may make return attacks. So that was some Imperial Robots. What did you think of those? If you want to see some more Oldhammer themed videos, and I know you do, then check out the playlist up here somewhere. As always, thank you very much for watching, and always remember to drill your barrels. And I'm going to have to try and sort out these lights for the next video as well. We're slowly getting there.